Hey there! Today I would like to talk about a sailor pen. I would like to talk about the 1911 large with a zoom nib. Now that's a special nib. And I'm going to talk about that in a bit more detail, but first let's have a look at the pen, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and what it looks like. So here we have this box, which I think is fairly nifty. I really like this see-through thing. It's kind of cool. You slide off the cardboard outer cover and you get the box, which is like a faux leather type of thing. You open it up and you get the pen. Okay, I'll take out the pen and you can open up the box. You probably know this type packaging. In there you've got the instruction manual, and the cartridge. They have it, instruction manual, guarantee sheet, etc. The standard things, and this type of cartridge. Now this is a proprietary cartridge. It has a very wide opening. For some reason these Japanese pens seem to have this. Pilot, Namiki, of course, and now Sailor apparently have these cartridges with the wide openings. That's slightly peculiar. I just something I noticed. In any case, the pen. Black resin body with gold rings. Have we seen that before? Here we have platinum with a music nib. Here we have an Amiki Falcon. Oh yeah, they're all black and they all have the gold highlights. Is that a problem? Let's call it classical design. I don't mind it that much. In fact, I think it looks okay. Some may call it boring. I think it looks okay. In any case, black resin, gold rings, nice. I like it's a classy design and it's a classic design. Okay, so what have we got? We've got the cap with the clip. Clip is pretty, well, springy. It's fairly tight actually. It has some nice relief lines in there. Can you see that? I don't think my camera picks it up very well. I kind of like this rounded off thing. I think that looks kind of nice. Okay, now we have this little gold ring, and here we have a wide gold ring which sticks out a little bit, slightly in relief, and a smaller gold ring. The wider gold ring says Sailor Japan, founded 1911. That's why the pen is called 1911. Okay, we have the barrel and a blind cap with another gold ring. The pen is opened by unscrewing the cap. So it's a screw-on cap, not a click-on cap, which I like. It's a little less prone to accidentally pull off the cap when you pull it out of your shirt pocket or anything. And here we have the nib. Now, you can buy, as far as I understand, any Sailor pen with any nib. So you can really pick it. Even on the cheaper pens, you can usually pick your nibs. And that is just the whole range. Extra fine, fine, medium, broad, maybe double broad, not absolutely sure about that. And then you have a music nib and a zoom nib, and then there are some real specialty nibs. As far as I'm concerned, the zoom nib already is fairly a specialty nib, as a matter of fact. So, another nice gold ring. Let's have a look at this nib. The nib is nice. As you can see, it has some detail on it, and it says 21K 875, which is the 21 karat, and it says Sailor and 1911 plus the anchor, the logo of Sailor. Now, you're probably wondering, what is a zoom nib? Why is it called zoom? Well, the funny thing about this nib is that it gets wider or narrower depending on how you hold it. So, I prefer to post this pen. You see it has a nice size then. I can even use it unposted, but because it's resin, it's fairly light. I prefer to post it. Now, what do I mean by this line variation? Well, if you hold this pen like that, and you write with it like this, really at a 90-degree angle, you'll get a very fine, narrow line. Now, the further you decrease the angle, or actually, I think you increase the angle. Sorry guys, geometry and me don't mix that well. If you move it like this, that's a more neutral expression, the line will get wider and wider and wider and wider. I'll show you that in a second when I do the writing sample. So the interesting thing about this nib is that it gives you a huge amount of line variation, going from, I would say, pretty much fine to definitely a fat, broad line. Excuse me. And that's very interesting, because I know of no other nib which gives you that flexibility. I mean, usually you have a medium or you have a fine, and that is what you have. Maybe you can apply a bit more pressure and, open the tines a little bit and give a little bit of flex, but that's it. Well, this nib has everything. It literally ranges from fine to broad, depending on how you hold it. So that is really interesting. In fact, you can even write with it like this. So with the feed pointed upwards, it will write, and it will give a very fine line. So you may be able to see that there is an interesting shape to the actual end of the tines, the part that actually writes. So in other words, a very versatile pen. Now I think I can talk about this for a long time, but the best thing I can do is just show you what I mean. So we'll move on to the writing sample, and that's it. So I hope this was useful, and I'll see you later. Bye bye. Okay, writing with the 1911 large, made by Sailor. So, before I show you the interesting things about this nib, let's get some things out of the way. So this is the Sailor 1911 large. The ink is a Sailor limited edition. I think it was called Do You. In any case, it's a nice reddish, brownish, nicely shaded color. Okay, so let's first do some very normal writing to give you a feel of the smoothness of the nib. The nib really is smooth, and what I like about it is that it gives quite a bit of feedback. Now that may sound like it's scratchy, it's not at all scratchy, but for some reason you feel the paper through the nib. It's very difficult to explain, but it's something I haven't felt before in a fountain pen. So it's really nice. Okay, now what about this zoom aspect of the nib? Well, if you angle the nib very steeply, like this, so the camera is at an angle, but if I really put the pen to a 90-degree angle onto the paper, like this, then I get a very fine line. In fact, I can turn the nib around and write like this, and then I get an even finer line. The nib is designed so that you can do that, and the nib is designed so that if you alter the angle, you see what I do with my hand, the line will get wider. I'll try to show you. So this way, you can go with one nib from something that is, well, fine, I would say, to something that is definitely broad, and everything in between. So that is really unique. At least I know of no other nib that can do that. So that's pretty awesome. So this lays down a very wet line, which you can see over there where I just touched it. And with a bit of practice, I'm not saying I've completely mastered this, but with a bit of practice you can imitate a flex effect by having thinner lines, much wider lines, thinner lines, etc. This is not the best example, but you can see there is some line variation depending on how exactly you angle the pen. Hello, Sailor. So that's so that's pretty unique about this nib, that you can vary the line width, which I really like. And at the lowest angles, I mean, you've got a really broad nib that lays down an extremely wet patch of ink, which I think is just awesome. I mean, talking of wet, you see that? Okay, when it comes to flexibility, it's a 21 karat gold nib, so yes, there is definitely some flexibility, but of course the whole nib with the line variation already gives you something that is well, flexy, I would suppose. I'd suppose. I mean, it's not. Gosh, this is difficult to explain. So it's not really flexing the nib as in opening the tines, which you can also do, but you can also just alter the angling of the nib and create varying line widths. I hope that makes sense. So it's doubly flexible. You can open the tines, or you can just alter the angle. That's what I was trying to say. Okay, so I've shown you a writing sample. I've shown you the smoothness of the nib and laying down ink. You can write quickly with it, not being legible. But as you can see, the nib doesn't skip. The feed is perfect. It supplies you with a rich amount of ink no matter how fast you write. So in other words, this is a really, really nice pen. And I really like it. I really like this nib. So, I hope this was useful. I would say thank you, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.